Hi, Arati.
Hi, Megha. How are you? So nice to meet
It's
you.
so nice to have you to face.
No, I'm such a huge fan of your work, Megha.
I'm a huge fan of your work
Yeah.
as a person.
No. I've been following your work since I think since you made that short film on acid attack, and even before that, I think Bunny was after that. But I've
And
always yeah.
yeah, your short film window was the first that that's a mark to actually pay attention to women in films, women who have short films in festivals. And, at that time, there was hardly any word of mouth through the internet or anything. But
Yeah.
it
There was
was
no
really
Instagram and stuff.
first
Yeah.
interview with short film window.
Yes, I know. It's such a beautiful interview. It still comes. It is still the top, viewed interview on the website because I have the stats with me in the back end. So I think everybody went and read your interview, and it was such a lovely interview. But yeah, I've been like following your work for so long, and I've always seen you. Maybe once I saw you in Film Bazaar, so I've always admired you from a distance. So I was like really excited to know that when you were making your film, I think you shot what are the awards, what are the odds month before I shot my film. So I was seeing all those live Insta updates of your daily shoot, and I was getting so inspired. And you're just seeing all the fun and and like the awesomeness of it. I love how you cast. Like I remember whenever you want to cast, there's a Insta, post or there's a Facebook post asking, I want a girl who can sing, and then like I just love the kind of the energy of the shoot. Like it's so lovely, and then you cast the best, yeah. So yeah, and then yeah, you helped me with the music of Cargo, and that was
Was,
the
that
most.
was a lovely thing for me to partake in as well, because I have been such an avid follower of your work. And I think it's very, important for women filmmakers. I mean, I'm sure camaraderie, etc., is names, to a certain level can come across as surface. But what I would like to get out of this conversation is the fact that we both have really kept track of each other's progress, not only as filmmakers, but as practitioners and working women in the process. And I think the professionalism that you have and the way the cool head with which you deal with things is really something else. And also, I don't want to, I've only heard men romanticize and talk about sci-fi, but for me, your achievement was an achievement for me as well, because I mean, here's a girl who did it so effortlessly, without like playing it was really effortless and beautiful to watch your journey and to partake in it. And I think it's a big win for me as well.
Thank you so much for saying that. But the other thing, like to add to that, what I found very inspiring about what you did to me by helping me out with the song of Cargo, because especially at that point we didn't know each other so well. We knew of each other, we admired each other from the distance. I especially admired you from a distance, and you knew I was stuck like at some point because I really wanted the kind of music or kind of pop, and I was not getting it. And you while you were making your own film at the same time, you chose helping me instead of choosing to feel competitive about things, and it kind of changed the game. And I think it's such an amazing role model for all the young girls, young directors who are because we have to help out each other. So what you said is right, that surface level camaraderie is different thing, but actually helping out in each
Yeah,
other's
actually,
very different
and
thing.
what's important about like film festivals as a platform, etc. Like even the Bandra Film Festival. First of all, congratulations to Pooja Kohli, who was my producer, and whose initiative it is to have started this. And like even this conversation that we're having about Uss Paar. I mean, Arti, would you like to?
No, so Uss Paar has it's actually my diploma film, and it's my film from film school. So when you're making a diploma film, you feel as if like you want to just do the best you can, because that's the last time you'll be given all the resources you need. And that was the time we were shooting in 35 so we had all those things going on. So till before that, normally film school films don't have film stars per se. So one of
Yeah,
the things I
sure.
really
Shroff. I mean, for a student film, I think ballsy move. Like you directly went to like one of the icons of our generation saying, and I what I love about a whole lot of us that that when you have nothing to be scared of, you're just fearless. There's a certain capability that you are just. And I think in particular, I was very like, wow, you had Jackie Shroff in your first film.
Yeah. Yeah.
Strength for you for that.
And like, yeah, we really went to him as kids. I just found his number from somewhere, and just sent him a blind email, like, and then he just replied back with like his phone number then. And that's how I called him. And then he called me for a meeting. And then he asked me what's the budget. And I said the budget is around 90,000 or something like that. So he started laughing. He said, is that for the entire film? Yeah, I said, yeah, it's not for the actor, it's for the entire film, like, and we will have the camera and cans. And literally, this is the same figure. I still work with those figures, like such a joke, but yeah, and the same setup, but yeah. But what I really liked about, so we had very strict, number of cans. And I think that discipline was really important because it taught me so many things that when you're shooting digital, maybe you can go to 10 takes, 20 takes. But when you have cans, even to think of the second take.
Yeah.
So, that's what I had, like, I learned a lot through film school, especially this film, because we were like shooting in the outskirts of Mumbai. So if we were out of cans, we had to stop shooting. Like there was no way. So we knew that these were the cans that were actually available. And it was a first time I was shooting in a real location, which was a real railway station and functioning railway station. It was not, and actually people were coming and going. What I really liked about Jackie Shroff in the film per se was that in spite of being a superstar and all of us being like young, clueless crew, he was super accommodating. Like he was very nice. We were making him be a stand-in. Like, I didn't know at that point that big actors don't give clear shots. Like,
film don't have those filters, and I think that's the beauty about the first films you make, that you make them so unpretentiously. You're not daunted by the system at all. So
yes.
The kind of risks we take with our first films will always be the only risks we take with our first film, because I think films also the process makes us conscious or arrogant or pretentious or too aware, and I think only our first films will always have that charm about like having a certain not clue about what we're doing.
yeah, that's true. We're uncorrupted by the real world. We're still living in our head in a way, and I think that's also beautiful. It's kind of cinema for the sake of cinema. So I sometimes like that idea also. So yeah, I mean, that's how it started. But I actually also wanted to know about you. Like, I know that your early years were in Pune. So how did you transition into filmmaking? How did you get into filmmaking? Yeah, I just wanted to know your journey. Yeah.
So I think Pune has always been, I'm a pretty rootless person. But if I were to say that I have some roots, then it would be the forests of Pune, like, because that's where my house we still do. My parents still stay in Pune, and automatically I was surrounded by these hills and these forests in Pashan in Pune, and it's the city of the Film and Television Institute of India. So when we were kids only, because screenings used to be free in FTII at the archives, I used to go with my grandparents, and like as a kid only, I was watching like Bergman films and Bicycle Thieves and all, because it was free, and my grandparents used to take me along.
Wow.
And I don't think I understood them that much, but I think that mahol, that atmosphere in itself was very inspiring for me. And so and what were your inspirations as a filmmaker?
Yeah, actually, so for me, before I was a filmmaker, I was a software engineer. And but as a child, I used to really write a lot of stories, and I used to win a lot of those crazy story writing competitions. Like, I would actually participate on those competitions because I would win, and I would win all those, cute presents you get as kids, like Camlin drawing kit or this or that. Yeah.
Doing that, getting the food.
Yeah. So I would be actually always participating and winning, and I used to find that come very naturally to me. Like I was one of those kids, And I always had, because before studying in Nagpur, I studied in Gwalior. Still my written English or speaking English was not that good, but my stories were always very strong. So my English teacher would always pick two students. One girl whose writing is very good, but she would always pick my stories because she would want people to see that, these are the windows that she's opening with her story. So I used to always get very inspired. I mean, it's kind of, if somebody kind of appreciates a certain aspect of you, you feel more confident about that. So I was that, and I used to sketch a lot, and that was a self-taught. I was a very self-taught sketcher. I used to actually really observe my hands, observe shadows, observe lights. Or I would actually spend weeks sketching something. My sketches would last for a month. In fact, there would be a joke in my house that nobody should move that thing, because then others I'll shout, why did you move my this thing, my sketches just lying there on the canvas. So I was like that. But of course, growing up in middle class Nagpur, you're kind of, the studies are, all this is extracurricular and studies are your focus.
Yeah.
I was and so I did well in studies and I did my engineering, and so I followed all that. Even while I was doing engineering, I used to, fight for electives. I was one of those kids who would go to the computer science. I remember the IT professor was like, why would you want to elect a psychology course? Why would you want to elect a, this course when you are a computer science student? And I said, but I want to learn these other things also, not just coding. But I was kind of forced through all this machine learning and artificial. And so I learned all that. But when I was in US, that was when I actually felt really free per se, where I was outside the system. And then I started pursuing my, I started sketching again. I started writing again. And then I
Arati, you worked in a city that has inspired my music taste for the longest time. You worked in Seattle, and Seattle is known for its grunge.
Yeah.
Growing up, I was obsessed with a particular kind of the Seattle grunge scene, which basically has these
yeah,
groups like Alice in Chains and Soundgarden and Nirvana, Pearl Jam and Stone Pilots, and it's so bizarre because it's like I was always dying to be in Seattle, but I always ended up in New York for some reason. And Seattle was just like, okay, I'd go there like once a while. And you actually got to spend time in a city me so much,
And I attended those concerts, Bruce Springsteen and stuff. So I have a very lovely memory of my time there, because it's free, really free per se, because we were there was a financial independence that was coming with my job. Plus, you had your weekends to yourself at least, and you're at least mentally free, no responsibilities per se. So I really enjoyed that. And from there, I got myself a video camera and I started shooting, making short films over there, editing. And I really enjoyed editing. I think I got attracted also with the process of editing, of putting together, two thoughts and, deriving a third thought. So from there I got in, and that's when I went to film school. And I think the film school was where I actually ended up seeing the films you saw as kids. And that kind of, I went crazy. I was like, what? This is what films can do. I was feeling just a changed person. So I didn't want to now go back to software. So I thought I'm going to stick.
Thank God for this decision. And too bad for software. It lost a brilliant mind to film.
Yeah.
But no, Zaveen, I think someone like you can do it all. And we've had conversations about, things. So
yeah, I know, but I feel that about you. I'm so envious of you because you have such a great sense of music and a great sense of rhythm, and you have a surrealistic touch to your work. I mean, and I can see nature flowing in, and when I see Megha's film, I can tell it's Megha's film, and I think that's such a lovely thing to find your signature, in terms of, because a lot of us spend a lot of time finding our voice, because so many times we are so inspired by all this great filmmakers that you feel like doing, oh, I want to do something like this, I want to do something like this. But with your work, I know it is Megha. It is coming from somewhere really within. So how did you find your voice? I really want to know. I was very curious. Yeah.
I feel the same way about you. I exactly know when I see anything you've written or you have, there's a certain touch to your work that really moves me. And I think that's your like that's your gift, the fact that you're able to move such intellectual heights with such a humane touch to it. And we will come to that. As far as your question goes, I think nature has played a very important part, because I think where you are sets the rhythm for your writing in a way. And I always see to it that the nature of things is, weather should affect human beings. Nature should affect human beings. What are we if our surroundings, if our environment doesn't affect us? And I think uh, that's where my conversation with my environment begins, and kind of transcends to a dreamscape. And I never, I'm not afraid of crossing that line in a way, because as an only child, I lived in my head most of the time, and as much as it may seem that I'm a social person, or like I'm able to talk to people, or I'm articulate, I was very uh, I was a loner, okay? And because we're only kids, and I actually don't, and when I say I was a loner or I am a loner, I don't mean that in a bad way. I love being lonely, and I love being alone and having, I don't like out in groups. I love being alone and kind of developing that sense of floatiness about visuals and writing in general. And, at times, it's called indulgent, but I'm like, maybe in some years people like me won't be called indulgent,
Yeah.
a norm in film,
Yeah.
to not be afraid of kind of crossing those boundaries,
Yeah. The way sometimes I judge a filmmaker's contribution to this is by, if you remove all the films from the of the filmmaker from the filmography of the world, will you miss something? And with, for me, if I remove Megha's films, like what are the odds, so whatever I've seen, like your feature film and your shorts, I'll miss something. Like something will be missing in the Bollywood film landscapes, and that's how I recognize a filmmaker, that we need this filmmaker because she's adding something new, and you can add it only if you're bringing your dream space or your internal life into it. So I think what you're doing is wonderful, and I don't know why you feel that in few years you'll be appreciated, because you're already being appreciated a lot.
No, I mean, in the sense, it won't be, I just feel, there are badges every time. And I wanted to ask you as well, do you ever feel the burden of being called quirky and whimsical? And what is the greatest criticism you have faced about yourself?
No, I get very scared. Like, just somebody told me, I love how experimental you are. And I was like, oh my God, I always thought I was mainstream. So I always feel like, very worried when someone calls me experimental, because I put so much efforts in making sure everybody gets my work and get those sci-fi world that I'm creating. But yeah, I mean, I think with Cargo also, when I write the first draft of the story, like with science fiction, has its own tropes, right? It has its
Yeah.
own existing narratives where it always sort of ends in a spectacle by the end of it. And I always
A spectacle. I don't know a film that hasn't ended, a sci-fi film that hasn't ended with like a perfectly choreographed, well-planned spectacle.
yeah. So, but like, for example, when I was making Cargo, I also wanted the film to go little internal, like, so those are like some choices that I was trying to make, like, as a filmmaker, because for me it was also important that, because Cargo, especially because it was a film about life and death, right? So I wanted it to put forth those questions, and not just be about, like, like those things like that about the spaceship, which is more about us here and less about a guy in a spaceship. Like, that guy in a spaceship is actually I in my home. So I wanted to bring out
Cargo, more than a sci-fi film, is a film about humanity, is a film
yeah,
about isolation, is a film about understanding loneliness as well. One of my and I want to tell you about one of my favorite moments from Cargo, is when his shadow, when he asks about his dog,
yeah.
and you won't believe it, like I was like really enjoying the film till then, and at that moment I just found myself like melting a little, like
Yeah.
and I think it requires a great amount of radical kindness and humanity to have that moment, which was so simple, and people shy away from that kind of simplicity, and over intellectualized sci-fi, I feel, and for you to have done that and make it accessible in itself is a wonderful telling, of the genre, and the fact that innovation is happening within this genre as well.
Yeah, yeah. So that was always my thing, that I wanted the sci-fi that I'm making. I wanted this to be an Indian sci-fi, and since we don't have many Indian sci-fis, like I really
Actually, Cargo was the first Indian
sci-fi.
I've seen in terms of I don't know if I'd call it sci-fi, but my sci-fi references when I was a kid was this serial in Doordarshan called Indradhanush.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And Sigma. Like that's all I have seen of Indian sci-fi.
Yeah.
Otherwise, all my references have been like Soviet, post-Soviet, USSR.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in terms of design, like it's steampunk and this and that. But I'm so happy that
Yeah.
it's, and I hope you never feel it as a burden for you as you know uh, uh, your sister in film. I would like you to know that I know there's been a lot that comes to you saying first sci-fi filmmaker, this, that. I think you're like a great filmmaker in general, and you don't need to bear the flag of just sci-fi. And you're an story.
Yeah.
I think
True.
that's important.
Plus also I also got that kind of criticism that, oh, is this the first sci-fi? And so I did, as like, I just made a film I wanted to make. I never wanted to prove that this is what we can make to the world, but still, like, I was like, fine, this is what I could do with all honesty, with the resources I had. But yeah, I mean, I wanted to know, how was your journey with What Are the Odds? Because it's such a different film than all the short films that you've made. And it was, it had its surreal moments, but it was pretty much rooted. It was the story of this girl, Vivek. And I just loved the name. I loved the kids in your film. And I loved everything about it. It was like such a, I can kiss and hug that film. It's such a lovely film. Like, it felt like your childhood. Was it inspired
It
by?
was my childhood, and that's why the older I get, the more insecure I got that I will be getting farther away from it. So I said, if I have a chance to do this right now, then I may as well get it out of my like list of things I want to do immediately. And I think it takes a bunch of very ballsy producers to also produce a film like What Are the Odds, which is not a film, which is an English film, which is a rock and roll film.
Yeah.
It's very bizarre in its telling. And the thing is, they've never seen me do something like this. I've always done work like newborns and bunny and things for so I mean, it's probably one of the most different things I've done, and I'm just happy that I got to do it at the time and age I got to do it as well, because I think it would have made a difference to me physically. Like, I don't think I would have the energy to shoot continuously for 24 days. Like, I can't.
Yeah. Tell me about the shoot. How did you find? Did you what were your experiences as you transitioned from like a short filmmaker to a feature film filmmaker? What were the new things you learned as while making a film? Like,
my Zoom has disappeared.
Yeah, I think you've disappeared. Yeah.
Wait, what do I? Damn. 1 second. Can you see me?
Yes, you're back.
Yeah, I just shot it in home ground, and it was really like a simple film for me. It wasn't very complicated or anything like that. I just shot it in simple block lenses, and
Yeah.
it was just fun. I had a great time. It wasn't complicated, and I wanted to do something simple and fun, and not get into very complicated feature filmmaking, because I didn't have the bandwidth at that point of time. I really do something simple with my life, and I really wanted to do like a lot to do with music. I wanted to write music. I wanted to sing. I wanted to hear live performances. So
it's such a fun film, that even that whole portion. I just love when she tells Abedul, "What about us?" And it was like, this was such a funny thing, and that's how we all were as kids. Like, we had things cooking up in our head, and we used to, think that that's reality. So I just love that. Like, you know, I love the talking fish. I love so many things about your film. And your Amir Samosa,
But
Samosa.
make a film like What Are the Odds again. I feel like now it's done. Like, and that's what I feel about stories, that I don't want to make the same kind of, and I think you've also noticed that about me.
Yes.
That anything I want to do is never the same thing. And as filmmakers, I don't think we should be afraid of experimenting constantly,
Yeah.
So I'm not addicted to one particular genre or one. I just love the fact that girls like us who've had a certain kind of upbringing get to have careers in film. It
Yeah.
enables us to also kind of make a living and have a certain amount of mental playfulness and involvement
Yes.
with what we're doing. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I was gonna say that same thing. Like, you know, I think I find ourselves like that way very privileged, that the mental playfulness, the thing you talk about, that we are in a way fortunate that we are being able to tell the stories we really want to tell, and they are our stories. And like, but do you get now a lot of requests to make young adult content because you made because there's this whole huge demand for YA?
That's what happens with the industry. Like the minute I wrote Shaitan, the only this thing that I was getting was drugs ke बारे में ये बनाएंगे drugs. I'm like नहीं यार, हम दूसरी चीजें भी लिख सकते हैं. So so now it's always like young adult, you do kids. So and I'm like, huh.
Yeah, but then your young adult was very unique as compared to every other YA stuff that I'm seeing. So but I wanted to digress a bit, because I know personally that you're really steeped in literature. You're one of those people who really read a lot, and I know very few directors who read as much as you do, because you've always shared lovely poems or lovely, snippets from art.
I of poetry. Yeah.
So so what, I wanted to know about your favorite books and favorite authors, and how do you think that poetry enters your work in a way? Yeah.
I think poetry is an extension of your work, and I think poetry is something physical. It's something that has a physical effect on me, not just mental. It's something that truly transcends me from a feeling. And this is something I probably, I think we've run out of time also. So my parting quote would be for anyone who's watching this interview to go read a poem and figure the physical feelings that you go through. And I think that's the power of good literature and poetry, that it provides a lens into the lives of others that we aren't able to experience in a way. And I think that is so enriching, for forms of art to be able to do that. And for us as human beings to have that experience, that immersive, beautiful, tactile experience.
Yeah.
And it's one of the only reasons why I've also kept away from like reading. I mean, if you see, I just have so many books because I love that tactile connection that I have, It's very nostalgic. It's very important for me to feel that connect, and it's a very physical feeling. And poetry is an extension. It's the closest I've gone to touching my soul in a way. And the works of great poets move me the way they must, as life is, Arati, what about your parting quote for our one chat?
No, I was reflecting on what you were saying, and I always feel that, like, that kind of empathy that you're showing, and that kind of, love you have for nature, and the love you have for life, and the, the ability to tell your stories is sort of a superpower. And so many times when we go through that struggle, and when we go through highs and lows of life, you should like really know that, like, and that's true with a lot of female filmmakers, a lot of filmmakers in general, because the struggle always is like, like kind of, it's not easy in Bollywood. So I always feel that whenever you're going through that, you should always, instead of even in the lowest point, you should think of yourself as a superhero. Even if you're a fallen superhero, you're a superhero, and those are your superpowers. So you owe it to your superpower to, go out there and tell your stories honestly. So, that's what, that was kind of my parting quote.
And I'm so glad that we had access to each other's brains at any given point of time. And, you know, I'm so
Yeah.
happy to know you as a colleague, as a friend, and as someone I can always reach out to, as can you. And yeah, I'm signing off with all my love to you.
Yes, thank you. And you're the like brightest star in the galaxy for me. So yeah, thank you for being there. Thank you for making your films, and thank you for everything. Yeah.
Thank you to the Bandra Film Festival for allowing Hush Fest to happen.
Yes, thanks, Bandra Film Festival. Thanks, Namrata. Thanks, Pooja, and
Thanks,
everyone.
Namrata.